Welcome to Pillow Talks with Victor, where love lingers in words. Tonight, a story of hearts reunited, of love remembered, and of moments that take your breath away. They say that love matures like wine, but for Maya and Ayaan, it was more like an old song, one that lingered in the background of their lives, always playing softly, even when everything else was loud. It had been 7 years. 7 years of growing together, of drifting apart, then finding their way back, again and again, like the tide and the shore. They knew each other's silences just as well as their laughter, and tonight was different. They sat across from each other in the dimly lit train compartment, the last one heading home from the city. The window beside them was streaked with rain, mirroring the slow rhythm of their thoughts. Ayaan glanced at her, not the way you look at someone across a room, but the way you look at a piece of your life you never want to forget. Her hair had fallen loose, the way it always did when she was tired. Her eyes were distant but calm, like the sea after a storm. Maya turned to him, sensing his gaze. She smiled, that same half-smile that once stopped time for him. "You remember this train?" she asked. Ayaan chuckled softly. "Our first kiss. End of that rainy night, 4 years ago." She leaned her head back, closing her eyes for a moment. "We didn't speak. You just held my hand, like you knew I needed it more than words." He nodded. "I always knew." The silence between them wasn't empty. It was full of memories, of touches that still lingered in the air, of words they'd whispered in the dark, promises they'd kept, and the ones they were still trying to. Maya reached out and took his hand, their fingers laced with the kind of ease that only comes from loving someone for a long time. "I don't want to go back tonight," she whispered. "Then don't," he said, voice barely audible over the train's hum. Her thumb brushed his palm, slow, familiar, deliberate. It was a simple touch, but Ayaan felt it all the way down to the center of his chest. "Maya," he said her name like a secret. She leaned in closer, resting her head against his shoulder. "Do you still look at me the same way?" I never stopped. Even through the fights, the distance, the nights spent back-to-back in bed, he still looked at her with that same quiet ache, that same tenderness, that same hunger, not just for her body, but for her soul. The train rocks gently, and the night wrapped around them like a blanket. The lights inside dimmed further as they passed through a tunnel. For a moment it felt like the world had folded into just the two of them. Ayaan turned to her, and she met him halfway, not with urgency, but with reverence. Their kiss was soft, familiar, like breathing. It wasn't about fire or fireworks. It was about warmth, about coming home, about remembering every version of themselves they'd ever been with each other. Young, foolish, afraid, brave, in love. She pulled back slightly, her forehead resting against his. "I miss the way we used to slow down," she murmured. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Then let's slow down now." There, in that quiet space between two cities, they rediscovered something sacred, a gentle intimacy that didn't need to be loud to be profound. The way his hand moved over hers, grounding her, the way she looked at him like she was seeing the boy she first loved and the man he'd become, all in one glance. The train rolled on, but time seemed to pause. Their closeness deepened, not in loud declarations or heated passion, but in quiet touches, the kind that speak louder than any words. Her hand resting over his heart, his fingers tracing the curve of her wrist. A soft laugh between them as their noses bumped in the dark. It was love, raw, imperfect, lived-in love. And as the final station approached, neither of them moved to stand, because in that moment, they weren't just passengers heading home. They were home. In each other.
If you've ever loved someone long enough to forget where you end and they begin, you'll understand this story. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just holding someone's hand on a quiet train ride and knowing you'll never let go.